So that's the finished Vuex pattern. I could imagine you kind of understood how it works, but don't feel 100% comfortable using it. That's normal. It's something you have to practice and you have to use, and we will use it in the final course project, so that hopefully gives some additional confidence in this pattern or in using it. Also be aware you don't have to use it. If you have a tiny or medium-sized application, setting up all these mutations, actions and getters may be too much boilerplate. Maybe you don't want to use it in such a case. Anyways, I want to reiterate how this all works to really make this 100% clear. We do have our central store, and this store gets adjusted or changed by our mutations. Mutations have to be synchronous. Therefore, we oftentimes use actions to commit our mutations. Actions are dispatched by our components, and it is a good practice to always use actions even for non-asynchronous mutations or tasks, but you don't have to. If you don't want to use async code, you are fine to just commit your mutations directly from your components without using actions in between. However you do it, in the end, of course, you not only want to change the state, you also want to use it. And for that, we got getters. Getters allow you to access your state in different components, and getters have the nice benefit of these components automatically getting updated whenever your state changes. Let's see this in our application. In our application, everything starts here in the store. We set up our initial state, which holds this counter, which is 0 initially. Now, this state is nice, but it doesn't help us if we can't use it in our application. Therefore, we want to see it in some components. To see it, we set up some getters to have reusable code for accessing our state. We do use these getters in the result and in the another result component. In another result, we use map getters, this little helper, to create a couple of computed properties automatically, which we then can use to access our state or our properties in the state. And in result, we do it directly by accessing this $store getters, since we only use one getter here. We could use map getters here too, of course. Getting is nice, but in order to adjust and change our state, we use mutations. Mutations take the state as input, and optionally, they also get a payload. The payload is basically data we pass to mutate the state. Here we then directly manipulate the state and therefore overwrite the old state. We can commit mutations directly from our components, but oftentimes we will use actions in between, and we do have to use actions if we want to run asynchronous tasks. These actions are set up in such a way that the first argument is the context, which is almost the same as the store, but does have some minor differences. And there we mainly need the commit method, which we use to commit the mutations. We can use async code in our actions as long as the committing is always done synchronously, so as long as we don't have async code in our mutations. We also can, of course, get a payload for our actions, and we do fire the actions in our counter and another counter methods, or components, where we set up our methods and use map actions with the spread operator here to quickly create or let Vuex create the actions we need to have to access our actions. And that is really all. This is how a Vuex application is set up and how we can manage the state there. In the next videos, I want to have a look at how we could split out the store.js file into multiple files for bigger applications, because this file will get crowded pretty quickly, and some additional things on how to optimize this for using it with bigger applications.